Alright, boom. So me and Rambling's getting together, reacting to this month's-ish news in the Punjabi and Sikh space. We've got...
So in Punjab, a historic Samadhi has fallen apart, which I think is, for me, really disheartening, but also quite interesting because in London, they can essentially stick a church, which I'm sure is about 500 years older than the Samadhi in Punjab, and build a car park around it. And we obviously just seem to be kind of neglecting our heritage. On top of it, a Roti machine has gone viral. A lot of people are upset. We'll get into that in a second. There's also a serious update about the Oldbury rape case. And lastly, the TikTok that cheesed me off, that apparently Sikhi is doomed. And we'll get into all of that in a second.
Start with the... Because I didn't see this.
See what?
I didn't see this news story about the... crumbling of the building.
Oh, so it wasn't like an article or anything, but Peter Bance had put up this had put up a reel, and basically it shows the Samadhi of, I'm probably gonna butcher, it depends what spelling you want to take, but Maha Singh, he is
Probably Maha,
the
right?
grandfather, I think, of Maharaja Ranjit Singh.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone would have seen the image of that Samadhi that was taken in like the 1800s or something. That's now fallen apart. And from what Peter Bance was saying, he had gone there a year ago or maybe a couple of years ago, and they weren't allowing him to go on one of the floors, I think the top floor, because of how bad it had been preserved. And essentially they were scared it'd fall in. But they've neglected it so much that it's basically just collapsed.
And that's in Gujranwala, Pakistan.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing there is, hey, this is it's not really controversial, but often we see people in the comments when we complain or criticize the British and say, you know, you looted all our stuff, it's all over here, and you have countless objects, like we were talking about earlier, underneath the V&A, underneath the British Library, British Museum, in big vaults, and we ain't got a clue. They might have Botiya, they might have Shastar, we don't know what they've got. But one of the good things that comes as a kind of collateral from that is that they actually know how to look after them. And we've seen that time and time again in India, Punjab, Pakistan, wherever it is, in South Asia in general, they ain't got a Scooby on what they're doing.
Yeah, but if you think about it, right, you just walk in any city in Coventry, any city in the country or town or whatever. Like, we were in Bakewell on the weekend. They had a church that's from like the 12th century.
We don't appreciate that as a culture.
We went on some walk somewhere, and there was another random little, like, I mean, maybe probably as big as like 4 or 5 cars, a church, again from like the 13th, 14th century. So these are hundreds of years older than the buildings we're talking about, but that whole attitude towards conservation is completely different. And I think, like, I'm going to plug obviously Veracity Estancia at this point, because they're doing the work that we are essentially discussing / complaining about, which is they found, like, I've done a podcast with them, and it was brilliant because they have literally found the building that Kavi Santokh Singh wrote Suraj Prakashin, and are involving all of the experts to restore it. So they're doing it the right way with the right people and the right intention. And I wonder, I guess the actual question is, how can we as a community, or how do you think we as a community can encourage our people, however you want to word it, to take a better attitude towards conservation and actually preserving our own stuff?
Well, this is a multifaceted problem. It's an artifact problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, but forget artifacts for a second. Just talking about big buildings that are like historic forts, even Gurdwara, all sorts. And I guess you could argue there are problems in terms of how can the arm banda on the floor, so to speak, on the street actually do anything.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I think we see it like I was gonna say, like, is it Baba Dalrai Gurdwara, where they just tile up all the frescoes. On one reading, and I know we're ramblings of a sec here, we're doing the history thing, but on one reading, everything's temporary, and
everything is temporary. But all right, so quick tidbit before we move on to the next topic, because otherwise we'll be here on this one forever, which is, so in the podcast I did with Veracity Estancia, they spoke about how they had a conversation with a very well-known pracharak in the space, and obviously I'm not going to name names, and neither did they, and they had the same kind of mentality, which is everything obviously is going to be destroyed. And if you remember English GCSE, everyone did that poem Ozymandias. Yeah, you know,
real things. Man dropped the English lit reference.
But with that, the I think the difference is that, and same with this Pracharak, he was saying, well, look, everything kind of just crumbles and whatever.
Yeah.
And the retort from the guys from Virasati Estancia were, that's fine if it falls over because of some natural disaster or war or something like that, fine. But by sheer neglect, that's a shame. That's like a blot on us.
I'd agree. I think
because actually think about it. In 300 years' time, how much physical, material heritage in terms of buildings will there be besides the whitewashed Gurdwara that they've built?
Yeah, I agree. I think when we look at this, there is an argument, and it's a factual argument, but that, you know, nothing really matters. So but really, the ultimate reality is then you might as well never build a Gurdwara, never even have a yard, never have a gaddi, never appreciate beauty. But obviously, Sikhi is about
the balance. Balance?
Being in the world, you know, building beautiful things, preserving our culture. It doesn't mean we grab onto it like this has happened now.
It's not an attachment to it, but it's a respect for it.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think the only thing we can do is do more things like this.
To try and raise awareness and hopefully
bring
change
money to the people that are doing well and talk about it, because it's a culture thing. Like, if there's outrage, how dare this happen? And I'm surprised, to be honest, people haven't weaponized this, because obviously it's on the other side of the border.
I think it will at some point be weaponized.
You know, like we saw Ranjit Singh's statue and things when people were, I know it's a bit different.
I think there's a lot of politics involved as well that we as a diaspora are separate from. But I guess just to kind of wrap on this, because we want to get through a lot more, is if you do care and are bothered, please do donate to people like Virasati Estancia. I think last time we spoke, they need something like, I can't remember the numbers, but they need a lot of money and they don't have the whole lot. So please go and help. And also let us know what you think people can do. And hopefully those kind of questions and thinking will help. Number 2 is a really interesting, well, when I say interesting, it's interesting because of how it was brought to my attention, which is someone sent it to me and they were like utterly appalled and offended. And this is like someone who, on like, if there was a Sikhometer, I wouldn't necessarily place them near the highest point, if that makes sense. So I was quite surprised that A, they cared, and B, they cared so much to share it with me and be like, this is terrible, this isn't what Seva is, like, think about all of the people who can't do Seva now and this and that. And it's basically
the roti machine.
Yeah, and this is that roti machine.
So we got the roti coming out.
So that she's literally putting in the little what do they call them again? The little like pucks in it, and then they're just being made. I do think the design of it is jokes, because
coming out the bottom.
Yeah, why do you want the roti coming out on the like basically on the floor?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in Tauful Gurdwara, not to like bait them out or anything.
Yeah, well they put it up themselves.
For me, I think what's in, like, I'm just gonna give the counter argument, which is, for me, I think it's clever for a number of reasons. Okay, first of all, nowadays, like, I don't know what it was like back in the day, but nowadays Gurdwara get food inspections, so they get the ratings out of 5, right?
They do,
So instead of having to train every single sevadar or langari who comes in on their health and safety process, on this process, on whatever, you got a machine, removes a lot of the hassle, Secondly, sometimes you don't know how much sangat you're gonna have, and there have been points where I've read, like, I'm sure people listening to this will connect, which is, you may have gone to a Gurdwara and all of a sudden there's bare sangat that just turns up and they gotta smash out another 500 rupiah. And the bibi are there going like mad. Like, obviously we don't want to take the seva away, but it's again, it's about balance. Like, it's like, can it help to aid the seva? It's not necessarily taking it away.
Well, the other thing is as well, like, at some point we moved from having a log fire to having a gas hob, from having, you know, no central heating to central heating. Technology does move on. And
well, I think what's interesting on the point you made, which is a lot of Nahang Singhs would still today cook on a fire, on wood burning, because of that.
And when you don't do the wood, we're getting dark here. When you don't have the wood, then you stopping someone cutting down the tree, doing the things, bringing the wood. That's the seva that. But then so nowadays, we know that things get obsolete.
Yeah, true.
And you know, I think this one's quite it strikes at our what do you want to call it, like our childlike kind of attachment of the Gurdwara, of our parents doing,
that's how it should be. Yeah, because I saw it like that.
And now you're not, that's such a fundamental part. But at some point we got pasta in the Gurdwara, pizza, we had machines, we don't gun the atta anymore in a lot of Gurdwara.
No, they got that mixer in it.
But that machine is kind of not as obvious as this roti
Actually,
machine.
hold on.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure Amritsar, Harmandir Sahib have machines that help with the langar.
They must do.
I'm sure those documentaries cover it.
There must be,
because the numbers they have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many arguments. Like at some point, you stopped having Kirtaniya just singing. You gave him a microphone, and that stopped someone designing halls that had good acoustics, which they used to have. So I think it's a shame if you view it as a shame, but it's not a really big deal, and I'm hoping that no one has some mad, crazy argument that's like, yo, it's beyond me. I don't think it is. I really don't think
it
is.
But if you do think it is, if you do think it is, let us know. It'd be interesting to see.
Nicely, innit?
Yeah,
actually, be nasty if you want, innit?
It'd be interesting to see the argument or the viewpoint. Yeah. Okay, the next one isn't, I don't know whether it's a talking point or what, but I think it's I wanted to bring it up because I think we've both covered different parts of this story, which is obviously the Oldbury rape case, which happened I think last month, where a young Sikh woman was brutally racially aggravatedly raped in near Birmingham, in Oldbury, obviously, right? They put out and you covered this, which is like there was a reward if they could find any information. Anyway, the police, and this is what this is, which is the police have arrested. And this is the bit that kind of throws me off, which is I wasn't expecting them to say they arrested a 49-year-old man and a 65-year-old woman. Now, they arrested them on 16th of October, which is a few days ago, in relation to a rape in Hurst Green Park, so a separate rape, but also they're being questioned in relation to the rape in Oldbury that we've just discussed. They've been given a further warrant of detention in order to allow the police to continue talking to them, right? And that's all that has been released so far. Some people are kind of unhappy it's taken them so long to get here. But I think if you look, and I haven't had a chance, but if you look at the data around rape convictions and stuff like that, and you may know more because you work in the legal field, which is, this itself is almost an anomaly.
Yeah.
Like in finding, like as in getting them so quick and being able, let's see what happens. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it. But like finding a culprit that quickly is almost unheard of.
Or the victim was really brave in coming forward so quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
And when we see a victim come forward quickly, you can get evidence that you need, intimate evidence that often people, I don't know exactly details in this case, but often people want to obviously shower and things like that. But if a victim is able to get to a police station and give evidence before they've even done any of that, which I appreciate is a hugely traumatic thing to do, then they can preserve more evidence. The fact, I think in this case, it happened in broad daylight and it was early in the morning, I think it's shocking, and led to a feeling, I think, amongst the community that this should be dealt with really quickly. Surely there's some evidence, surely somebody saw something.
I think anything that involves any type of sexual violence or assault is always like, it's always going to be like closer to the bone no matter what, right?
I think I agree, but with the fact that it was in daylight, I think there was a feeling amongst the community that someone must have had a camera, and that feeling of wanting it to. The fact that Chris Brown just came on now, I think is insane.
I don't listen. Yeah, that's a really bad timing. Yeah, fucking hell.
That's edited out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut that.
So the fact that it was in daylight and early in the morning, I think the community.
I think also the fact that people, everyone now has a camera, like a blink camera, a ring camera.
I think people want it. If it was dark, it'd be harder to get that footage. It doesn't.
And the fact it's in a residential area.
Public area, and I think that's partly why, and of course the nature, like you say, of the crime. So hopefully they find the right person and they convict them, and they can throw like the whole book of justice at their forehead, basically. And Benji, who
gets the support she needs,
gets the support. It's not something where we just rally around. I think we need our organisations that have been involved to stay involved and provide any care and support.
And she gets the right care that she needs.
Therapy and things is really expensive. So I think if any organisations in touch need to do a fundraiser or anything, publicize that and let the community know.
Okay, this one I've been waiting to talk about, which is Sikhism doomed? Yeah. Now,
let's show the video. We need to see, because I need to my
I'll
brain
I'll put the video here for everyone watching. And
what's going to happen to Sikhism or Sikhi in the future? Because think about it, like we've all left Punjab to go to the West, to go to Christian countries, right? Like Punjab's empty now. We've come over here to settle. Like we're not here for a bit and then going back. No, we've come here to like we've set up shop here. You know, no pun intended, but we've set up shop here. You know what I mean? We're here to stay. So as each generation grows up here, yeah, they're gonna adopt more and more Western values, right? Obviously, because it's inevitable. Sorry, it's better English, isn't it? Because we're in their country. So it might get to the point where our great grandkids' parents can't speak Punjabi, and at that point, how can they read any of the Sikhism teachings and stuff? Like how can they understand any of it? That's it. The lines, like it's cooked, bro. I think we're seeing it now, even, you know, with this generation. Obviously, like I cut my hair, less and less people are keeping hair. But bro, like we're not in Punjab anymore. That's the thing. Like we're in a whole different society now. Like it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen, bro.
But I'll just give you a quick summary of the argument, right? So the argument goes like this: we've all left Punjab and gone to Christian countries. Although I would argue most of them are secular, but we'll get to that in a second. Although, and as each generation goes on, this is what this clip that you probably just watched says, is that each generation will adopt more Western values, right? Part of this process will be the inability for future generations to speak Punjabi, which will therefore ensure that in turn, you can't read any of Sikhism's teaching and stuff. That's a direct quote from the video.
You're being such...
And that will mean that the line's cooked. Again, this is a direct quote from the video. Now, and that we're all apparently seeing it now because more people are cutting their hair. We're not in Punjab, and therefore Sikhi is doomed, okay? I will just quickly add one little bit before I let beyond the comment, and then I'll give my 2 cents, which is, in many ways to me, it feels like that video is a way of justifying personal choices rather than it being actually reflective of the community to any extent. In my opinion, the argument confuses things like change with decay, migration with loss, and individual choice with the collective collapse of an entire religion. However, I will let you comment before, because I've actually made serious notes on this.
Yeah.
Like I've literally made serious notes. So
I think firstly, if we take the video in good faith, I think we could say it's a fear that, you know, we're not going to continue on a path of Sikhi as a qawm, as a nation, as a community. I think it's confused. Firstly, I think he said that Punjab will be empty. I don't think that's true. Punjab's not empty. Sikhi is also not confined to Punjab itself. And as somebody who's not Punjabi, well, you are Punjabi, but you're
mixed.
You're you know, from various different cultural backgrounds. You're in testament to that. So the idea that
but Guru Gobind Singh Ji wasn't born in Punjab. He was born in Patna, which is like what, modern day Bihar, isn't it?
I don't even know.
No, I might even be wrong. But again, it's not
all
Punjab.
the Panch Pyare are from across India as well. So we need to think about what we mean when we say things, right?
Funny that you started with that, because again, my first point is Sikhi has never depended solely on Punjab. The Gurus reached almost every point of India and beyond. If you think about Hazur Sahib, that is in Hyderabad, which is South India, and it's essentially a thriving hotspot of Sikhi.
And then on top of that, Gurmukhi, I completely will agree with you. Gurmukhi is really important, and that's how we read Gurbani, which is not just in Punjabi. So I think there's a confusion between with a lot of the diaspora, that Gurmukhi, the script itself, is the language and is Punjabi. There's a few things. Gurmukhi, the script, is a way of writing Punjabi, but Gurbani is written in many different languages. So the average Punjabi doesn't understand Gurbani unless it's a certain Bani. I think Bhagat Kabir Ji, Bhagat Farid Ji, their Bani is easier to understand because it's in more accessible language. But if you read Dasam Bani, if you read other part, it's harder to understand because it's using different languages, but written in a script, just like I write in English, but I'm writing Spanish. I can read it, but I ain't got a clue what the Spanish words say.
And that language then inherits like the myths and the idioms and all that of that language. I think also this is just on the point of like leaving Punjab, which and I'm thinking of this in a kind of more historic lens, right? Which is, I would argue that actually fits if you think about the Gadar party, that was Sikhs, Punjabis, Indians, whatever you want to call them, leaving India, going to places like California, going to places like Hong Kong or wherever, and then using that as a network, as an ability to build something that could try to make a change. On the same hand, think about Sikhs that are in countries like Malaysia or Dubai. Would you argue that they're inheriting Islamic cultural values or whatever? As in, like, just flip it in terms of, all right, we've gone to Western countries, but all right, what if you've gone to an Islamic country? Then what?
Yeah, I think it doesn't stand to reason or reality. Also, if we look at Sikhi right now, we're in a good place, in my opinion. We got Nanak Naam, basics of Sikhi. We've got so many outlets of people that are spreading different forms and understandings and interpretations of Sikhi. So you've got Nyang Singhs have really become more mainstream, and that provides a different perspective on so many important ways of living as a Sikh. I wouldn't say necessarily spiritually anyone's too different. I don't know if you
But I
agree.
guess it also depends on what you. So I guess this is another thing, which is, what are the cultural differences that in that reel or TikTok they're assuming are being adopted? Because if it's things like, for argument's sake, going out on the lash with the lads, well, okay, fine, you're adopting a Western tradition or whatever you want to call
Bands
it,
are
cultural
drinking
thing.
in the parent anyway. They're going to take,
Yeah.
you know
But
what
at the
I'm saying?
same, but at the same time, if that's a behavior that you as an individual want to like do, that doesn't mean now you paint the whole community with the same brush. Like that's the bit that's the disconnect for me that I don't quite.
I think it would warrant a conversation exactly what he means, but I think ultimately it's just not true, because Sikhi goes beyond borders anyway, and there's an argument to be said about the Punjabi and the lack of education around reading Gurmukhi. But even then, I wouldn't say most of the Singhs I know, most of the Amritari Singhs I know, they can read Punjabi, they can read Gurmukhi,
Alright.
and there's so much accessible out there. Let me finish
go on.
of Santhia. Back in the day, you'd have to go find someone to teach you. Now you can go on YouTube, Nyang Santhia. You can read, you can literally understand the grammatical devices used in Gurbani, which you couldn't do before. You get Larivar now on your phone. Back in the day, you couldn't find a Larivar Sarup. So think about it from that angle, and your whole perspective might shift. It might not. You may still feel the same way. But
go back to make his point,
think it will.
about the Sikhi is going to be doomed. I think an example that you could use is how when we have the debate around Anand Karaj and who can have it, which is, there's always a sticking point, which is there's always the Bande who have been born, like that video that went viral a while ago of that guy who worn his pug just for the wedding day and then lobbed it, right? That is a complete loss of Sikh understanding. But then at the same time, would you say to those guys who have been born into a Sikh family, get to their wedding day, want to wear the pug just for the photo op, that actually they're not Sikh? Because ultimately I feel like what that TikTok is discussing is that there is some truth to what I guess he's saying, which is there is a element of, or there is a layer of almost, I've been born into it, but that's not me. Figuring that bit out. Whereas I think for a lot of us, we've been born into it and we've discovered ourselves.
But I think in Punjab that will probably equally apply. How many mans are walking around, externalizing God as a separate dualistic entity from themselves? It's the same. I really think that Sikhi, from my opinion, is really, people are really understanding the essence of Eko Ankar. Youngsters nowadays, they don't externalize God, they realize it's internal and it's everything, and I think that's quite powerful. And I'd say to anyone who feels that Sikhi is on a decline is try.
I would say there was a renaissance.
There's a renaissance,
like in the diaspora. In the diaspora.
I think
not of Sikhi as in what we know as the historical religion.
And that's my thing. Traditionally,
but culturally,
people from my parents' generation perhaps would say, "What is going on right now? Mans are just losing their Sikhi." But look at look at Ra Kirtan, for example. How many mans are playing Dilruba? We've really seen a renaissance in that aspect.
Well, there was that thing recently where they played it in the VNA. As in this big stuff
Shastra
happening.
Vidya.
Yeah,
That's on the rise.
That's big.
Traditional Sampradama, they're getting more attention. So we're now understanding what Nyang Maryada is, what Taksal Maryada is, and we're getting all these different kind of, you can call them Jathe or I'd call them like Sampradama.
But there is a want or a thirst to understand multitude of like the diversity that is within Sikhi, or the garden of Sikhi or whatever.
The garden, yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I think also on the Sikhi thing, so I guess my first innate reaction was for two things, which is when I did my history degree, I remember again, I can't find the quote. If anyone remembers it, please like give me the reference. But there was a quote, can't remember who it is, but it's some guy and he's European colonial official or something. And he's basically like, I can't remember whether he says Akalis or Sikhs, but he says we won't see these guys in the future. They'll be in museums, right? And again, Ernest Trump, this is a direct quote. 150 years ago, he wrote this, right? Sikhism is a waning religion that will soon belong to history. Another guy called Gajindranath Bhattacharya, again, I don't know who this dude is, but 130 years ago, he says, Sikhi was fast losing its vitality. Now, I think what's interesting is, if you move to present day, there's almost 30 million Sikhs worldwide. And actually, this whole idea that Sikhi is doomed, it will disappear, also for me, is actually anti the Sikh philosophy. Because if you accept Sikhi to be true, the definition of truth is it's never created, never destroyed, it just exists, right? So even if, for historically, at points like the Vadda Kallukara, where there are literally very little Sikhs left, we still thrived and we still survived. So how, in my eyes, I'm kind of like, how with 30 million of us globally, and in a situation where we're not under war and famine and whatever, like what going on in Punjab, a little bit different, but globally or whatever, how can you then turn around and argue that actually Sikhi is doomed when like we have overcome such like hardships, like being holocausted, like Kalukada literally means a Holocaust.
I think separate
twice.
to that as well is it even a numbers game? I'd argue it's not, from what I've been taught.
It's not, but just the argument that Sikhi will collapse. Like how? There's 30 million people, bro.
I think that isn't true. But it sounds like we're just ribbing on this guy. I think he just made a video without thinking.
Oh no, I'm not ribbing him, and like as in this isn't a personal attack on him or anything like that. And to it, like as we've said, I do think there is an element of truth to it. I think the way it's worded is a little bit interesting.
It's clumsy, is it? That's what people do. You get online and chat.
But ultimately, it's a reflection. I feel like most of it is of him rather than the community.
Yeah.
And that, like, as in, and that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It just is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think anyone will have read this.
This story was this is quite a harrowing story. Ramblings told me about this.
I will put the article on screen as well, so you can
I think the whole thing we should just have.
So the title to this is "Couple Starved Daughter to Death, Court Told," and if you read it further down, eventually once you get to the third paragraph, you'll read that Jaskirat Singh Uppal and Manpreet Jatna, 36, 34, mistreated their daughter over an extended period of time and deliberately starved her, prosecutors said at the Old Bailey. They've been remanded in custody until their plea hearing later on in December. If you read further down, it turns out that they essentially would only feed the child yogurt, lentils and butter. But then on top of it, there were also marks to her neck consistent with the use of bindings.
Like a ligature.
Yeah, they found a ligature and injuries to her hands consistent with a sharp object such as a knife. So there wasn't just starvation over a prolonged period of time, of many months, it says, but there was also, to some level, torture or abuse of this small child. For me, it shot deep because I've had a child this year, and anyone who's got a kid or has a nephew or a niece will just feel this in a different way. For me, I just wonder how no one else cottoned on.
I think what we've seen in this article is reference to a couple or a family, if you can call it that, who are isolated from the rest of the community. In fact, they say in there they didn't register her birth with the GP. So I don't know what sort of conditions. I know the article they say it's quite messy, really kind of unhygienic conditions they were living in. But this kind of abuse, you can't. Ramling sent it to me a few days ago ahead of this, and it's just disgusting, and you kind of don't really have any words because. And I know any human who's capable of doing this is
It's not human, really. Is
yeah,
it?
and then and maybe I'm wrong for saying this, but when you see it's a Singh and a God doing this kind of thing, it really does make you feel
sad. You're so disappointed.
disgusted.
Yeah, you're
disgusted
so pissed off. Yeah.
And it's in Southall, a community that obviously we're not neither of us are from, but it's a place we've been to before. We know about. We've got friends there, and it just feels it feels like something that is for the news and not for
Our community.
Even though we know this happens, of course it happens in every community. I don't know if our community can do anything to stop this kind of thing. It doesn't seem to be the case that it was a child who was unwanted or something. I remember a case a few years ago in California where a young girl was pregnant and the grandparents of that girl got killed the baby because of the sharm or the shame and the kind of izzat angle. Doesn't seem like this is the case here, so it's difficult to know.
I think here it was very much like
cult.
Yeah, cult conspiracy. Like they've gone down some mad rabbit hole. They've just not been not recovered from it. Like the rest of the world is gonna kill them type of thing. But then equally, how much can you say it's like? Do they have a mental? Like, are they mentally unstable? Like,
I think.
And for me, I think there's a slippery slope because sometimes you can kind of excuse behavior that's made cognitively and consciously
with capacity.
And I don't necessarily think they anyway.
But I always think you're this evil, there's got to be something wrong with you.
But is that just our way of trying to understand it though, isn't it?
I don't know. It's just a really shit situation, and
it's not. There's not much we can say. Yeah.
But I think we should talk about it, and abuse does happen, and this was a really young girl, but not adult, but older
abuse
children,
happens to people who are vulnerable,
and we should look out for that as a community. We shouldn't think, oh, their parents are saying whatever. It should be,
like if you haven't seen the child for more than 2 months, maybe ask a question, right?
And if you're seeing things at school, if one of your kids' friends doesn't look well, say something, and even though it's
because worst case scenario, if there isn't anything, no sweat off no one's back, innit? It's all good.
Yeah, and I think we should.
And best case scenario, you don't wake up to a phone call or a news article that so and so is dead.
We should have a culture of speaking up and looking out for each other.
Last one, I will let you do this because to be honest, I didn't actually understand who it was until I heard the song that he was famous for. Obviously, it's tragic that he's passed away. I think he's the same age as me, or was
35.
Oh, okay, he was a couple of years older than me, which really did bring it home because I feel in a lot of ways, and I think anyone who becomes a parent, to a degree, will feel like your life has started again, or like your life has started. And I think at that age, I don't know if he had kids or not, but at that age, like he's left kids behind, he's left his wife behind, like he's left his parents behind. And I read something about, I think his wife, he didn't tell his wife when he had left to start the journey or something, and obviously that's because they were worried about him.
Yeah.
And I just think all from all angles, it's a sad situation, and my heart goes out to them all.
This is the passing of Rajvili Javanda, a singer who I think was really quite a rare kind of artist and musician who managed to bridge the gap between generations. And it's difficult to say, we don't know these singers personally, but he did always give the impression of someone who was really quite, for want of a better word, sensible and a good role model for younger Punjabis. And the death and his passing, I think, brings to focus a few things. I think firstly, road safety in India. I think he was hit by a cow, and having that level of
how are you gonna change how can you change a cultural understanding of the cow in India? That's actually what you're asking.
I don't even want to go into that, but having roads that are safe where animals can't get on them in the first place would be
but they actually, some people in India view that type of restriction as not allowed.
Well, I think that's just
no, I don't agree with it either.
That's difficult for us to go into.
Yeah.
But then you've got the issue of which I've read, and I don't know how true this is. After he got hit, he was moved into a car quite erratically.
Oh, he wasn't treated properly.
With his neck, and then there is so when we talk about culture and institutionalizing safeguarding
and professionalism.
We have that in the UK. You ring
Yeah.
999, they tell you don't touch the person, don't do this.
Yeah,
do
but
that.
also there'll be stuff like, I'm sure people watching this, and I'm sure you may have done it, which is at your workplace, you may have done like first aid training, or
Yeah.
you may have, if you had a kid, they show you what to do if the child chokes, or like there's certain this kind of stuff you'll learn. Even at school they'll teach
They
you
need
stuff.
to implement that kind of infrastructure in Punjab. I know this happened, I believe, in Himachal or Haryana, can't remember which one, but that infrastructure needs to be implemented. It needs to be widely known that when somebody gets into a kind of accident like this, you don't move them. You have to listen to what the paramedics and whatever.
Too soon and too young, man.
Yeah, that's another. It is just a really sad kind of situation coming off of the back of quite a few losses to the Punjabi music industry. I think it did kind of shake the industry. And one thing I would say on a positive note is what we've seen with a lot of the Punjabi artists. I don't know if you saw this. They're all getting together and taking on the shows that he was booked for and giving the money to his family, which is a positive.
That's really
thing.
sweet. That's sweet.
And I think that's when,
or like that's the right behaviour you'd like to see in these
from our
kind of moments.
industry.
Yeah.
And I think we do talk a lot about Punjabi artists, and people are angry with them a lot of the time, and it's a very difficult job in my opinion. But we do see an industry time and time again that does come together, and we saw it when Sidhu passed away.
Look at how with the floods you've got AP
Floods.
Dylan and what's that Singh's name? They did an interview the other day with Makka, and they're just chatting, and they're being asked straight like, "What, you brothers are earning peas? You're living in nice mansions. Why come back?" And they're like, "Bro, this is home."
Yeah, Karan's done a lot. Diljit's done a lot. We saw it in the farmers' protests how much of an impact our musicians have, and I think we should criticize them and hold them to account, but we should also
constructive criticism is always welcome, because how else do you improve? But just like shitting on someone is just why waste your energy?
And we should commend them, and I think there is something special about the Punjabi industry, Punjabi music industry, and Punjabi art in general. Of course, we're both biased with that, but
he's biased a little bit more than
way more biased. I love this stuff. And I thought it was heart touching. You saw Gurdas Maan at the funeral saying the same. He would take on some of the shows.
Controversial.
A controversial person, yeah. But at the end of the day,
I should have a controversial alarm that we play.
We leave that story on a positive note. Obviously, love and strength to the family.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Pretty much, I think
the
last two stories we've gone are quite sad. And
just a little bit.
And I think we should address them. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a lot. I think if anyone has any comments, feedback, whatever, even in relation to the clips that we've seen, obviously let us know. Equally, if there's anything you want us to talk about next time, send it to Beyond or myself via DM. Yeah.
That's sick. Let's do that. We're trying to do this more regularly.
Yeah. We'll try and do it monthly, and then do like a roundup of like the last few weeks. And then otherwise than that, obviously Beyond's social is here. Please go click on it. My social is down there somewhere. Please go click on it.
Come on. Thank you. See.
Changa.